Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. I am Zack, an ordinary plumber from Minnesota, USA. Today, I'm going to tell you my story, a story of love, betrayal, and rebirth. I was born into an ordinary family in the suburbs of Minneapolis. My father was a construction worker and my mother was an elementary school teacher. Although our family income was not high, my parents always tried their best to provide a good living and educational environment for my sister and me. From an early age, I developed an interest in hands-on work. I often followed my father around the house fixing plumbing and other minor problems, and these experiences set the stage for my later career choices. After graduating from high school, I chose to attend a vocational and technical school to study plumbing. There, I not only learned the ropes, but I also met my best friend, Nathan. After graduation, Nathan and I worked together at a local plumbing company. We both worked well together and quickly earned a good reputation among our coworkers and customers. Outside of work, we often played basketball and fished together and became inseparable good brothers. Just when I thought my life would go on like this, fate gave me a pleasant surprise. I met Emily during a routine plumbing repair job at a yoga studio where I was assigned to fix a water leak. When I walked into the yoga studio, Emily was teaching a group of students. Her elegant posture and gentle voice immediately caught my attention. After fixing the plumbing, I worked up the courage to strike up a conversation with Emily. To my surprise, she showed me a friendly attitude. We exchanged contact information and agreed to meet for coffee on her next break. Over the next few days, Emily and I grew to know each other well. I was attracted to her tenderness and optimism, and she seemed to like my honesty and humor. Our relationship heated up quickly, and we soon settled into a romantic relationship. Emily has brought more color into my life than ever before. Together, we explored every corner of Minneapolis, enjoyed the beauty of the Mississippi River, and picnicked on the shores of Lake Minnetonka. Every day is filled with laughter, and I feel like the happiest person in the world. A year later, at the same yoga studio where we met, I proposed to Emily. Emily was so excited that she burst into tears when I got down on one knee and took out the diamond ring that I had saved my money to buy. She said yes without hesitation, and at that moment, I felt like a prince in a fairy tale, finally welcoming his princess. Our wedding was held at St. Anthony Falls Park in Minneapolis. On that day, the sun shone brightly and the breeze was gentle, as if even nature was blessing us. Emily was so beautiful in her white wedding gown that it took my breath away. When we exchanged rings and made our vows in the presence of our friends and family, I vowed to cherish this hard-won happiness forever. Life after marriage was uneventful and sweet. We moved into a small but cozy house. Emily continued her work as a yoga instructor, and I worked hard at the plumbing company, hoping to give my family a better life. 2 years later, we welcomed the fruit of our love, a lovely daughter, Sophia. Sophia's birth completes our family. I come home from work every day and am cured of the day's exhaustion by Emily and Sophia's smiles. On weekends, we often take Sophia for a walk in the park or swing on the swing set in the backyard. Such a life is ordinary, but it makes me feel incredibly content. However, just when I thought this happiness would last forever, fate once again played a joke on me. In the 5th year of our marriage, I began to notice something unusual about Emily's behavior. She was often inexplicably absent-minded, sometimes receiving mysterious phone calls and then hiding out on the balcony to talk in whispers. At first, I didn't think much of it and just assumed it was work stuff. But as time went by, the suspicion in my mind grew stronger and stronger. Emily started to work overtime more often, sometimes even staying out all night. When I asked why, she was always vague, saying she was preparing for an important yoga camp. I tried to believe her, but my inner turmoil grew stronger. Finally, on a normal weekend, I decided to follow Emily and unravel this mystery that had been bothering me for a long time. That morning, Emily said she was going to the yoga studio to prepare for her class the following week. I quietly followed her car, my heart racing with both anticipation and fear of the truth I was about to face. Emily's car eventually pulled up in front of an apartment building. I watched as she walked into the building and then stopped in front of a door. At that very moment, the door opened and I saw an image that broke my heart. Nathan, my best friend, was standing in the doorway to greet Emily. They hugged, and then Emily walked into the apartment. I sat in my car, feeling like my whole world had fallen apart. My favorite wife and most trusted friend had betrayed me. At that moment, I felt a wave of unprecedented pain and anger. I didn't know how to face this cruel reality and could only drive home in a daze, my heart filled with sadness and despair. That night, I couldn't sleep, and when Emily came home, I pretended everything was normal, but inside I was turning over. I wanted to question her, to vent my anger, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed more evidence, a perfect plan to expose their betrayal. Over the next few weeks, I began secretly collecting evidence of Emily and Nathan's whereabouts. I installed a cell phone tracking app that recorded every one of Emily's outings. I went through her credit card statements and found some suspicious restaurant and hotel expenses. I even secretly checked her cell phone and found some ambiguous text messages. Each new revelation was like a sharp knife stabbing deep into my heart. I had trusted them so much, and now my whole world was turned upside down. I began to question every moment of our marriage, wondering if every sweet word was a lie. Sophia is the only one who is my solace during these painful days. Whenever I looked at her innocent smile, I felt a twinge of warmth. I decided that no matter what happened, I would protect Sophia from harm. After much deliberation, I decided to hire a private investigator to gather more evidence. I found the most reputable detective agency in Minneapolis and told them about my situation. They agreed to help me, but warned me to be prepared because the truth could be even harsher than I thought. Over the next month, the private investigator provided me with tons of evidence. Photographs, videos, call logs, each one clearly proved Emily and Nathan's infidelity. Looking at this evidence, I felt a wave of disgust and anger. My once beloved wife, my best friend, they could betray me so cruelly. During this time, I began to concoct a plan. I didn't want to go away in silence and let them get away with it. I wanted revenge. I wanted them to feel the pain I was going through. I decided to reveal everything on Emily's birthday so that everyone would know their true colors. I started planning this surprise party. I invited our mutual friends, Emily's family, and even some of her yoga students. I told Emily I was going to throw her a big birthday party, and as I watched the happy smile on her face, I felt a stab of pain. How could she betray me and still accept my love so naturally? At the same time, I was preparing for a divorce. I consulted an attorney to learn how to protect my rights, especially regarding custody of Sophia. I began secretly transferring some assets to ensure that Sophia and I would have a stable life after the divorce. Finally, Emily's birthday arrived. That morning, I wished her a happy birthday as usual and gave her a big hug. She looked so happy and completely unaware of what was about to happen. I got her ready in her beautiful dress and then told her I had some things to take care of and would meet her at the party later. I arrived at the party venue early to make sure everything went according to plan. I prepared a special slideshow that contained all the evidence. I also prepared a copy of the divorce decree, which I intended to hand to Emily on the spot after the revelation. My heart was beating faster and faster as the guests arrived. I saw Nathan arrive as well, smiling and exchanging pleasantries with the other guests as if nothing had happened. I felt a strong surge of anger at the sight of his smile, but I forced myself to stay calm. Everyone cheered when Emily arrived. She looked gorgeous in the gown I had prepared for her. I walked up, gave her a hug, and then announced that I was going to show a special video. The lights dimmed, and the projector lit up. At first, the screen was filled with happy memories of Emily and I, pictures of the wedding, a video of Sophia's birth. However, soon the picture changed. Intimate pictures of Emily and Nathan began to appear. Their ambiguous text messages were magnified on the screen. The entire room fell into a deathly silence. I turned to face Emily and saw the smile freeze on her face, replaced by horror and shame. Nathan stood in the corner, pale and at a loss for words. I took a deep breath and began to speak. Guys, I apologize for spoiling the party in this way, but I think you all have a right to know the truth. My favorite wife and best friend betrayed me, and they've been cheating on all of us." The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Emily cried and tried to explain, but I held up my hand to stop her. I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared and handed them to her in front of everyone. "Emily, our marriage ends here. I hope you have the decency to sign this agreement and not make things worse. As for custody of Sophia, I'll fight for it." With those words, I felt a sense of relief, as if years of burdens had finally been lifted. I looked around and saw looks of shock, sympathy, and anger. But I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to end this as soon as possible and start a new life. And just like that, my plan for revenge was executed perfectly. I exposed Emily and Nathan for what they really were and humiliated them in front of everyone. But when I walked out of the party scene and looked at the stars in the night sky, I didn't feel the pleasure I had imagined. Instead, I felt a deep pang of emptiness and sadness. I drove home and the house was empty, with only Sophia's toys scattered on the floor. I sat on the couch, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I had achieved my revenge, but what I had lost would never come back. The days following my revenge weren't as easy as I thought they would be. Even though Emily and Nathan got what they deserved, I found myself falling into an uncanny sense of emptiness. My life had suddenly lost its direction, and every day felt like I was groping my way through a thick fog. The divorce proceedings began quickly. I hired an experienced attorney who was determined to fight for custody of Sophia. The court arguments were extraordinarily difficult, and I had to look back on that painful experience again and again. Every time I saw Emily sitting across from me, a wave of mixed emotions would well up in me: anger, sadness, and a touch of unspeakable nostalgia. In the end, the court ruled that I was granted primary custody of Sophia, with Emily having visitation once every 2 weeks. This outcome was a relief, but it also meant that I would have to shoulder the burden of raising Sophia on my own. Returning to a home where Sophia and I were the only two people, I began to realize how difficult life was. During the day, I have to work hard to maintain my income. At night, I have to take care of Sophia, bathe her, read her stories, and put her to sleep. Sometimes, when I lie in bed and think about my busy day, I can't help but think of Emily. What a good mother she used to be. Would it be easier if she was still around? Work has also become increasingly challenging. I've had to work fewer hours to take care of Sophia, which means less income. Sometimes, when I was fixing complex plumbing systems, exhaustion and stress would suddenly hit me and leave me breathless. To make matters worse, I found myself beginning to be suspicious of those around me. Whenever I saw coworkers mingling or friends acting too close, I couldn't help but think of Emily and Nathan's betrayal. This distrust began to affect my relationships, and I found myself getting more and more lonely. One night, after putting Sophia to bed, I was sitting in my living room and suddenly burst into tears. I realized that even though I had succeeded in punishing Emily and Nathan, I didn't derive any real joy from it. Instead, I felt even more miserable and alone. I began to question my decision. Was it really worth it to reveal the truth and exact revenge? Just then Sophia woke up, crying for me. I dried my tears and walked into her room. Looking at her innocent face, I suddenly realized that I couldn't go on like this. For Sophia's sake, and for my own, I needed to find a way to heal my inner wounds and start living again. The next day, I gathered my courage and made an appointment with a counselor. In the first counseling session, I poured out all my pain and confusion. The counselor listened patiently and then told me, "Zack, you have experienced great betrayal and loss, and your feelings are completely normal. But now, you need to learn to let go, not to forgive them, but to free yourself." Those words were like a bolt of lightning that illuminated the darkness within me. I realized that I had been too bound by hatred and pain to truly move forward. From that day on, I began trying to learn how to reconcile with my past, how to trust others again, and how to find joy in my new life. I started trying new things. I signed up for a single father's support group where I met many people with similar experiences to mine. We shared each other's stories, exchanged parenting experiences, and encouraged each other. Slowly, I felt less alone. I've also started to focus more on my interests and hobbies. I picked up the guitar that I loved when I was younger, and sometimes I would softly play some soothing tunes after reading Sophia a bedtime story. Music has become an outlet for my emotions, helping me to express those feelings that are hard to describe in words. In the course of my work, I decided to further my skills. I attended a number of advanced plumbing engineering training courses and learned more complex repair techniques. This has not only improved my ability to do my job, but has also given me a new perspective on my future career. Most importantly, I began to focus more on Sophia's needs. I realized that even though our family had gone through a huge change, I could still create a loving and secure environment for her. We began to have more father-daughter time, weekend picnics in the park, simple science experiments together, or just sitting on the swing in the backyard watching the stars. Slowly, I felt that life was beginning to take on a new meaning. Although the hurt was still there, it no longer dominated my life. I began to smile again and look forward to each new day. One day, when I dropped Sophia off at Emily's for the weekend, I was surprised to find myself at peace with Emily. We had a brief conversation about how Sophia was doing. No arguments, no accusations. As I watched Emily and Sophia leave, I felt a sense of relief. I realized that I had finally begun to truly let go. That night, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my reflection. I no longer saw a man tormented by betrayal and hatred, but a father who was learning to live and love again. I said to myself, Zack, you are becoming stronger and wiser. You are becoming the father Sophia deserves. And so, after a painful betrayal and a fierce revenge, I finally found the path to inner peace. It was not a smooth road, full of challenges and setbacks, but I knew that if I kept going, I would eventually find my own happiness. Time flies, and before we know it, Sophia is already in elementary school. Over the years, I've gradually adapted to my role as a single father and grown at the same time. My plumbing business was booming, and I even started training new apprentices. Life finally seemed to be on track, uneventful but fulfilling and peaceful. Yet again, fate gave me an unexpected surprise. It was a normal Tuesday afternoon, and I was repairing a leaking pipe at an elementary school. Just as I was concentrating on my work, a gentle voice interrupted my thoughts. Excuse me, how long will it take to fix the restroom? I looked up and saw a beautiful schoolteacher standing in front of me. She had warm brown eyes and a kind smile. Oh, it should be quick, I replied, a little nervous for some reason. It'll probably take another 15 minutes. She nodded and said, That's great. I'm Rachel, the third-grade teacher. Thank you for coming to fix this troublesome pipe. We chatted for a few minutes, and the atmosphere was relaxed and pleasant. After the repairs were done, I worked up the courage to ask her if she would like to meet for a cup of coffee someday. To my surprise, she readily agreed. With that, Rachel and I started dating. At first, we were both cautious, afraid of getting hurt again. But over time, we slowly opened up, and Rachel is a kind, compassionate person who understands my past hurts and appreciates what I've done for Sophia. One night, we were sitting on the swing in the backyard looking at the stars. Sophia was already asleep, and the night was peaceful. Rachel gently took my hand and said, Zack, I know you've been through a lot, but I want you to know that I'm really grateful to have met you. You are an amazing person. When I heard those words, I felt my eyes moisten. Emotions that had built up over the years came pouring out like a tidal wave. I told Rachel that meeting her was one of the greatest gifts of my life. In that moment, under the starlight, we shared our first kiss. As the relationship progressed, I began to think about whether or not I wanted Rachel to meet Sophia. After much thought, I decided it was time. I carefully explained to Sophia that Dad had made a new friend and wanted her to meet him. To my delight, Sophia and Rachel hit it off right away, and Rachel has an amazing ability to make children feel relaxed and happy. She taught Sophia how to do crafts, read to her, and even baked cakes together. Watching them get along so well made me feel a sense of happiness and wholeness that I hadn't felt in a long time. However, life is always full of challenges. When Emily learned that I was in a new relationship, she suddenly acted disturbed. She started changing visiting hours frequently, and sometimes even tried to interfere with my dating plans with Rachel. This put some strain on our relationship, but this time, I learned to deal with the problem more maturely. Rachel and I shared our feelings and concerns openly. We worked together on coping strategies and decided to give Emily some time to adjust to the new situation. At the same time, I had an in-depth conversation with Emily, making it clear what I was looking forward to in my new life and what I had in mind for Sophia's best interests. After a period of adjustment, things started to improve. Emily gradually accepted the reality and our communication became smoother. Rachel won Emily's respect with her understanding and patience. Slowly, we formed a harmonious relationship where everyone's focus was on Sophia's well-being. 2 years later, I proposed to Rachel in Minnehaha Falls Park on a fall day, with Sophia as my little helper to hold the ring. When Rachel tearfully said, "Yes," Sophia jumped into our arms with a cheer. At that moment, I felt like the pieces of my life were finally coming back together. Our wedding was simple and cozy. I invited some of my close friends and colleagues, even Emily, and I felt a deep sense of relief when I saw the way Emily blessed us. The pain of the past had finally healed completely. Our new life was filled with laughter and love. Rachel soon became pregnant, and a few months later we welcomed a sweet little boy we named Ethan. I was overwhelmed watching Sophia tenderly care for her little brother. Life isn't always smooth sailing. We also have arguments over household expenses, parenting styles, and other issues. But every time, we were able to communicate openly, understand each other, and grow together. I deeply realized that this is what true love and family should be like. Now, as I sit on the swing set in the backyard, watching Rachel do Sophia's homework with her while Ethan plays, I often think back to the past. Those painful experiences, those dark days, have become motivation to make me appreciate the present even more. I've come to realize that life is like one of those complicated plumbing systems that I repair every day. Sometimes there are holes, sometimes there are clogs, but with patience, wisdom, and courage, a fix can always be found. Most importantly, learn to let go, learn to forgive, and learn to start over. Today, I am no longer the angry man hurt by betrayal or the lonely, struggling single dad. I am a happy husband, a loving father, and a successful plumber. My heart is filled with gratitude and fulfillment for the opportunity life has given me to start over. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.